Welcome, everybody. Well, this is going to be on Devin Nunes. I've avoided reading on him till now, but before I get to him, he's such a scabby, self-serving half-wit. Before I get onto that, I've had a few thoughts on the royals since then, and look, from what I've seen on social media and everywhere else, it's fantastic that they're in Westminster Abbey, or was it? It wasn't even Westminster Abbey, was it? It was somewhere else. You had an African-American preacher in full flight, which caused, the chinless aristocracy to just be completely gobsmacked. That was great. The gospel choir, obviously, a huge advance. But I would like to see this generation of royals, if they're sincere about social change, going on an apology tour of the world for everywhere that Queen Victoria went, because so much was colonised during that time. And so, look, they should symbolically apologise to Aboriginal people in Australia, New Zealand, the Pacific, everywhere, for stealing their land and taking away their religion, culture and language. In Canada, the Indigenous people, one viewer pointed out to me, because like Australian Aboriginal people, their kids were taken away and sent to schools and in other cases adopted out into white families, etc. And the last of these residential schools only closed in Canada in 1996. So people are still living actively this colonial history. So for Native Americans, it's a different nightmare. It was a different mob that did the colonising, but I've yet to hear an American president apologise in any way, however belatedly, however heartfelt. Not even Obama, didn't hear a mention. But back to my world apology tour for the Brits. They should go to the Caribbean and apologise on their knees for slavery. They should go to India and Pakistan, having created it. So there was India, the jewel of the English Empire, and it had Hindus and Muslims. So they were ahead of Trump with the wall. They thought, we'll just get all the Muslims to move over here and we'll call it Pakistan. So that was the partition of India, 1947. Again, people are alive who witnessed it. Throughout Africa, the stories go on. It was just land theft. So I'm sorry, a pretty frock doesn't offset all that, So I think they've got a bit of work to do, and they could start by going around the Commonwealth and actually issuing an apology. Now, okay, the other developments, apparently the cause of the shootings in Texas has been explained, and it was explained by Oliver North, who said it was caused by Ritalin. Too many kids on Ritalin, that's what happens. They go home, they get their parents' guns and they shoot their classmates. Really, Oliver? Awesome. And he's the new head of the NRA, so he's the perfect man for the job. And then you had the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, who managed to say it was actually the layout of the buildings, right? There were too many doors. So if there hadn't been so many doors, who knows? Lives could have been saved. This is not good enough, and the parents from Sandy Hook and Parkland who have been speaking publicly have described these comments in particular as moronic. So, look, God bless everybody, because these people are still in charge at least till the end of the year. So, one of the people who's been causing havoc since the beginning is Devin Nunes. So, Devin, I want to make a name for myself, Nunes. I don't care who I upset and who I offend and what laws I break, because I just want my name to be out there. So, what is going on for Devin Nunes? So I'm going to do a past, present, future. Maybe I have done a reading on him before and I've forgotten because he's so fantastically forgettable, except he keeps trying to cut up the Constitution with a pair of scissors every time you look. Okay, first card, King of Swords, his card. Okay, so give me a moment to put these out. Okay. All right. Devin Nunes. Is that a Portuguese name, maybe? Okay. If anyone knows his background, let me know. And so, although he may well be Portuguese or linguistically derivative, he might be from Brazil or somewhere, I'm sure he seems in favour of Homeland Security, getting the ice buses out there and taking his brethren back over the mythical border. All right. So his story. He sees himself as the King of Swords. Now this often turns up as Mullah, and I'd like to think Mullah's onto him, but I don't want to overread it. It's Devin Nunes' reading, so therefore I'll say this is him. He sees himself as the leading light of truth. That's a worry because it sort of indicates he's so deep in this conspiratorial caca, he actually has come to believe it. Yuck. Okay, the past. Won't spend long on the past. He has worked hard, in inverted commas, and he's brought a few things together. As I've often said, the martyr card. He deliberately worked hard and wanted to be noticed, but he, unlike some of them, he seems to have a capacity to convince people that he's hardworking and sincere. So if you don't like him, it's hard to accept, but I do believe he is quite charming in the flesh. He has to have something going for him because it's not obvious from what he does. Warhorse. This card is critical, I think, to his past. He was prepared to work very hard and did whatever bosses asked of him. He did it because he wanted to move up the greasy pole and wanted to be noticed. But he's a sellout. He has no principles. He is a hired gun. So this is in his past. That's when he turned. That's when the principles went out the door because he just wanted to make money and hold on to it. So now the mercenary, going back to his first card, has come to believe the shit he's talked, and he now sees himself in this godlike fashion. Now this is his current column. He's got the Hermit, and the current column is quite revealing, I think, for Devin. Now, he's not out of the limelight, so you couldn't give it the conventional reading of pulling away and looking inward. He's a public figure. He's doing that. So he, in this light, really feels like a loner. It's the lone aspect to the Hermit. And his central card for the 9-card block, you've got your signifying card, then you've got 9, out in the cold. So this is now, so he has become more isolated within the Republican Party, this says to me. That might not be obvious to the rest of us who read what he's up to, but I trust the cards in that sense, and I think this thing of keeping on wanting to haul the Justice Department over the coals and all this stuff, it's playing well with a handful of vicious, twisted Republicans, but it's not playing well for a large number of them. So he's becoming more isolated, and he's not part of their current discussions for the future. That's interesting. He will continue and is regarded, I think, in this current thing. He'll do whatever he can and he'll get away with it. So as long as he can get away with it, they'll say, oh, okay, Devin, they're still wanting to talk to you in the media or put you on television or something, but fewer and fewer are. And this is part of, they'll play him out until he's made to look like a liar and a fool, and then they will start to desert Devin Nunes. But to a certain extent, the damage is done, and the damage is still being done. Coming up for him, the Hierophant, the system. He's not as pure as you need to be in modern politics if you want to escape this investigation. This is the system coming for Nunes. Now, this may be Mueller and something along that legal track, or it could be the Republican Party, as I said, who was starting to move away from him, which I hadn't seen in terms of what I read and stuff, so that was interesting to me. It might be them. In any event, he's being looked at very closely by people who matter. He will come to a crossroads. What's he going to do? So what does that mean? Does it mean that he's going to start towing the Republican line into the midterms and stop provoking all this extra stuff that they don't need to deal with? Or is the ego of the of the King of Swords such that he thinks, no, I'm right, everyone else is wrong, and I'm going to keep fighting for what I think is right? So I tend to think more the second one, that he's going to be at a crossroads and he's going to keep doing what he's doing. And one of the reasons I think that is he got the Ace of Cups. All right, so often in a normal reading for a normal person, this is bountiful, good emotions, luck, joy and happiness. Why should it be any different? Well, that'd be because of all these other cards, the rip-off card, the miser's card, the martyr card, the out in the cold card. This is not a reading for unmitigated joy. This is a reading that says too much emotion. So this is the flip side of the Ace of Cups, is an overflow of emotion. And what should be the Dove of Peace becomes the bird zooming down, splashing into the chalice, spilling more emotions. So let's just go forward a couple, see if we can get any more out of that. So he gets the Apprentice card. All jokes aside, the Apprentice. So, like I said, he's not shy about work in the sense of putting in the hours and making the zillion phone calls to keep it all happening. He has a lot of energy, and he's going to need it because he's now got the Magician card. So this says to me he'll be called on to work some magic for the GOP. Will he be able to pull it off becomes the question for another reading. So he has gone from being an apprentice and working his way into our living rooms. So some credit for that. But the Magician, so is it good magic or bad magic? What magic does he wield? Well, one more. Oh, the cards are going to say this is a karmic situation for Devin Nunes. Okay, the Wheel of Fortune. He's going to think he's the magician and got it all, but they've actually, if you go back to the current column and the near future, they don't trust him. And this is what happens if you're an untrustworthy person, but you're fighting the other guys. People tend to overlook your untrustworthiness because you're getting a result that's good for the team. But they don't actually trust him. and they shouldn't. And so the wheel of destiny will turn, and it will turn big time. Oh, I'm fascinated, but I'm not going to go on with that. I'll do another follow-up reading on him in some short time out from here. All right then, my lovelies. Let me know what you're thinking about everything. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your kind donations. They do help an old girl down under. So I'm very grateful. All right, I'm in the process of securing my guests. So fingers crossed we'll start the guests very soon. So thank you guys. Bye from Australia.